They murdered 2 million humans for the crime of existing. Earth's response didn't just destroy their fleet, it rewrote the laws of physics across 17 galaxies. The communication array at Terra Central crackled with static as Admiral Sarah Chen stared at the holographic display. The timestamp showed the transmission had originated from New Haven Colony, exactly 47 hours ago. What she was about to witness would change the course of human history forever. "Admiral," Lieutenant Rodriguez called from his station, his voice tight with barely contained emotion. "The final transmission from New Haven is ready for playback." "I should warn you, ma'am, it's not easy to watch." Chen nodded grimly. New Haven had been humanity's crown jewel, a thriving agricultural world with over 2 million colonists, including families who had lived there for 3 generations. Children had been born under alien suns, had taken their first steps on soil hundreds of light years from Earth. Now, according to the quantum entanglement beacon, there was nothing but silence. The hologram flickered to life, showing the face of Governor Marcus Webb, his usually pristine uniform torn and stained with smoke. Behind him, explosions lit up the sky like deadly fireworks, and the screams of civilians echoed through the colony's emergency bunkers. "This is Governor Webb of New Haven Colony," his voice cracked with desperation. "We are under attack by an unknown alien force. They came without warning, without any attempt at communication. Their ships, God help us, their ships are the size of cities." The image shook as another blast rocked the colony. Through the window behind Webb, massive vessels descended from the sky, their hulls gleaming like obsidian mirrors. Energy beams lanced down, and entire city blocks simply vanished in brilliant flashes of light. "They're not targeting military installations," Webb continued, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "They're targeting schools, hospitals, residential areas. This isn't a conquest, it's genocide. They're killing everyone, including the children." Admiral Chen's jaw tightened. In her 30-year career with the United Earth Defense Force, she had seen war in all its forms, but nothing had prepared her for the cold efficiency of what she was witnessing. "Tell Earth," Webb's voice broke as a child's scream pierced the audio feed. "Tell them we tried to surrender. We broadcast on every frequency, offered to evacuate, begged them to spare the civilians. They didn't even respond. It's like we're insects to them." The transmission cut out abruptly as the bunker shook violently. When it resumed, Webb was lying on the ground, his breathing labored. In the background, alien figures moved through the smoke. Tall, angular beings in flowing robes that seemed to absorb light itself. "Admiral Chen, if you're receiving this, don't let them get away with this. 2 million souls called New Haven home. 2 million human beings with dreams, families, futures. They had children who were learning to read. Old couples celebrating their golden anniversaries. Scientists on the verge of breakthrough discoveries. The alien figures were closer now, and their faces became visible. Elongated skulls with multiple eyes that glowed like dying stars. They moved with an eerie grace, paying no attention to the human survivors cowering in the bunker. The species calls itself the Seraphim Collective," Webb gasped. "We managed to intercept some of their communications before they jammed everything. They consider us a contamination, a lesser species that pollutes the galaxy by our very existence. This isn't about resources or territory. It's about purification." One of the Seraphim approached the camera, its multiple eyes focusing on the device with what could only be described as curious disdain. It spoke in a voice like wind chimes made of broken glass, the words somehow translated by the colony's AI systems. "Your species spreads like a plague across worlds meant for higher forms of life. This cleansing is a mercy. Swift extinction is preferable to the slow decay of cosmic significance you represent." The creature raised what appeared to be a weapon, though it looked more like a crystalline sculpture than any human firearm. Governor Webb struggled to his knees, facing the camera one last time. "Remember us," he whispered. "Remember that we were here, that we mattered, that we loved and hoped and dreamed under these alien stars. And when you find them, when you find the bastards who did this, make sure they remember us too." The transmission ended in a blaze of white light. Admiral Chen stood in the war room as Earth's greatest military minds processed the horror they had witnessed. The silence stretched for long minutes, broken only by the hum of quantum computers calculating trajectories and fleet positions. Finally, General Harrison, the gruff veteran who had led humanity's expansion to the stars, spoke with barely controlled rage. 2 million people, he said, his voice like grinding steel. 2 million human beings, murdered for the crime of existing. Dr. Elizabeth Vance, Earth's leading xenobiologist, pulled up holographic displays of the Seraphim anatomy based on the transmission data. Their psychology is unlike anything we've encountered. Most aggressive species we've met want territory, resources, or dominance. The Seraphim appear to be motivated by a philosophical belief that humanity is fundamentally incompatible with their vision of cosmic order. Cosmic order, spat Captain Rodriguez, who had been promoted to the Admiral's staff after his exemplary service during the Martian Rebellion. They committed genocide and called it housekeeping. Admiral Chen studied the tactical displays surrounding New Haven's last known position. The quantum beacon had gone silent 47 hours ago, but long-range telescopes were finally beginning to receive light-speed confirmations of what the quantum entanglement had already told them. The entire star system was dark. "Admiral," called out Commander Sarah Kim from the sensor station, "the Hubble-Clark telescope array is picking up something from the New Haven system. You're going to want to see this." The main display shifted to show a telescopic view of what had once been humanity's most successful colony, where New Haven's sun had burned for billions of years. There was now only an expanding cloud of stellar matter. The planets, the asteroid belts, the space stations, everything was gone, consumed in the artificial collapse of the system's star. "Jesus Christ," whispered General Harrison. "They didn't just destroy the colony. They destroyed the entire solar system." Dr. Vance ran rapid calculations on her tablet, her face growing pale. "The energy required to induce stellar collapse, it's beyond anything in our theoretical framework. We're not just dealing with an aggressive alien species, we're dealing with beings who can weaponize stars themselves." The room fell silent again, as the implications sank in. Humanity had always known that other species might be more advanced, but the scale of power demonstrated by the Seraphim was almost incomprehensible. They had erased not just human civilization, but the very cosmic real estate it had occupied. "How many other species have they done this to?" Admiral Chen asked quietly. Dr. Vance consulted her databases of galactic surveys. "We've detected 17 star systems in this galactic sector that went dark over the past millennium. We assumed they were natural stellar deaths, but the pattern, the timing, it suggests systematic extermination. 17 civilizations," Chen mused. "Potentially billions of sentient beings wiped out like they never existed." General Harrison slammed his fist on the conference table. "And they think they can do the same to us. These Seraphim bastards have made the biggest mistake in their species' history." "Have they?" Commander Kim asked pointedly. "General, with respect, they just demonstrated the ability to collapse stars. Our most powerful weapons can barely scratch the surface of a moon. How exactly do we fight something like that?" Admiral Chen walked to the massive viewport that looked out over Earth's orbital defense platforms. Thousands of ships floated in formation. Humanity's proud fleet, the result of centuries of technological advancement and military refinement. Against the Seraphim, they might as well be paper airplanes. "The same way our ancestors fought every impossible enemy," she said finally, "with human ingenuity, desperate courage, and the absolute refusal to go quietly into the night." She turned back to the assembled officers. "Dr. Vance, I want a complete analysis of Seraphim technology based on the transmission data. Every frame, every detail, every reflection in a piece of debris." Commander Kim, "Begin immediate evacuation protocols for our most vulnerable colonies." General Harrison, "I want our entire fleet recalled and retrofitted with every experimental weapon we've ever conceived." "Admiral," Dr. Vance interrupted, "even if we could match their firepower, the logistics are staggering. They're operating on an interstellar scale, with the ability to move between star systems at will. Our fastest ships take years to reach neighboring systems." Chen smiled grimly. "Then we'll have to be smarter than they are." The Seraphim made one crucial error in their cosmic housekeeping. Which is, they let us see them do it. They wanted us to know what happened to New Haven, to understand our place in their hierarchy of cosmic significance. That means they'll come for Earth next, and when they do, we'll be ready. The Admiral activated the fleet-wide communication system, her image appearing on screens across the solar system and beyond. Her voice reached millions of humans, from the mining stations of the asteroid belt to the research colonies around Jupiter, from the terraforming crews on Mars to the deep space exploration vessels at the edge of human territory. Citizens of the United Earth Alliance, she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to announce. We have received word that New Haven Colony has been destroyed by an alien species calling itself the Seraphim Collective. 2 million of our brothers and sisters are dead, murdered for the crime of being human. Across the solar system, people stopped what they were doing. In space stations and planetary settlements, in corporate boardrooms and family kitchens, humanity listened as their worst fears were confirmed. The enemy possesses technology beyond our current understanding. They have weapons that can destroy entire star systems. They believe humanity is a contamination to be cleansed from the galaxy. They are wrong. Admiral Chen paused, letting the weight of her words settle across the human sphere of influence. To the Seraphim Collective, I say this. You have awakened something you do not understand. You see us as insects, as a plague upon your cosmic order, but we are something far more dangerous than that. We are human beings, and we do not forgive the murder of our children. In the depths of Luna Base, Dr. Richard Chen, no relation to Admiral Chen, despite sharing a surname that was common enough in the Earth Alliance, worked frantically in Laboratory 7. The quantum physics research facility had been humanity's most closely guarded secret, a place where the fundamental forces of reality were studied and, occasionally, bent to human will. The readings are off the charts, his research assistant, Dr. Maya Patel, called out from behind a wall of holographic displays. When the Seraphim collapsed New Haven's star, the quantum ripples reached all the way to the galactic core. It's like they sent a shockwave through the fabric of space-time itself. Dr. Chen studied the data with growing excitement. Maya, do you realize what this means? They didn't just destroy a star system. They created a quantum signature that's detectable across the entire galaxy. Every species with sufficiently advanced sensors would have felt that. You think other civilizations know what happened? I think the Seraphim just announced to the entire galaxy that they're systematic executioners. And more importantly, they've shown us how their technology works. Chen pulled up the quantum analysis of the stellar collapse. The mathematics were staggering. Equations that described the fundamental relationship between matter, energy, and space-time. The Seraphim hadn't simply blown up a star. They had convinced it to forget how to exist. Their weapons don't operate on conventional physics, Chen explained, his voice rising with scientific enthusiasm, despite the grim circumstances. They're manipulating quantum reality at a macro scale. They're convincing matter to adopt new quantum states, essentially rewriting the laws of physics in localized areas. Dr. Patel frowned at the implications. If they can rewrite physics, how can we possibly fight them? Because, Chen said with a grin that would have looked maniacal to anyone not familiar with his research obsessions, they've just given us the Rosetta Stone of quantum mechanics. Every time they use their weapons, they create detectable patterns in the quantum substrate. We can reverse engineer the principles. On the surface of Luna, Admiral Chen was reviewing the preliminary reports from the evacuation of the outer colonies. The logistics were nightmarish. Moving millions of civilians from dozens of worlds required every transport ship in the human fleet, and they were running out of time. Intelligence suggested the Seraphim were methodical in their exterminations, allowing years or even decades between their systematic visits to different regions of space. But New Haven had been different. The speed and thoroughness of the attack suggested the Seraphim were accelerating their timeline. Admiral, Lieutenant Rodriguez approached with a data pad. We've received responses from the evacuation orders. The colonies in the Tau Ceti system are refusing to leave. Chen looked up sharply. Refusing? Yes, ma'am. Governor Nakamura says they'd rather die fighting on their own soil than abandon everything they've built. He's organizing militia groups and fortifying population centers. And the other colonies? Mixed responses. About 60% are complying with evacuation orders. The rest are either organizing defenses or... Rodriguez hesitated. Or what, Lieutenant? Or they're panicking, ma'am. Some colonies are experiencing complete social breakdown. There are reports of riots, mass suicides, religious cults claiming the Seraphim are divine judgment. The Kepler 442 system has gone completely dark. We think the colonists may have destroyed their own communication arrays to prevent the Seraphim from tracking them. Admiral Chen rubbed her temples. Managing a military response was challenging enough, without having to coordinate the psychological collapse of human civilization. Get me a secure channel to Governor Nakamura. If he wants to make a stand, we'll give him every advantage we can. The communication established, Governor Nakamura's weathered face appeared on the screen. Behind him, Chen could see civilians working alongside military personnel to construct defensive positions. The man looked exhausted but determined. "Admiral," Nakamura said without preamble, "I know what you're going to say. My people are being stubborn. We should evacuate, live to fight another day. But with respect, ma'am, running away isn't fighting. It's just postponing the inevitable. Governor, the Seraphim can destroy entire star systems. No planetary defense can stand against that level of power. Maybe not. But dying on your feet is better than living on your knees. My grandparents fled Earth during the climate wars, looking for a better life among the stars. My parents built this colony with their bare hands, turned a dead rock into a world where children could run free under an alien sun. I'll be damned if I'm going to abandon it without a fight." Admiral Chen studied the man's face, seeing in it the same stubborn courage that had driven humanity to the stars in the first place. "What do you need?" Nakamura smiled grimly. "Everything you can spare, Admiral. If we're going to make humanity's last stand, let's make it count." Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of human space, Captain Elena Vasquez piloted the deep space reconnaissance vessel UES Discovery through the void between stars. Her mission was technically classified, but everyone aboard knew they were hunting for any trace of Seraphim fleet movements. What they found instead would change the course of the war before it had even begun. "Captain," called out sensor specialist Lin from his station, "I'm detecting massive quantum disturbances at the edge of our sensor range. It's not natural stellar activity. The patterns are too organized, too purposeful." Vasquez moved to the sensor station, studying the readouts. What she saw made her blood run cold. "How many ships?" "Unknown, Captain. The quantum signatures suggest vessels of enormous size, but they're unlike anything in our databases. They're not moving through space so much as folding it around themselves. Through the viewports, space itself seemed to ripple like water disturbed by an enormous stone. Reality bent and twisted, and then they appeared. A fleet of Seraphim vessels that dwarfed anything humans had ever constructed. The smallest ships were the size of Manhattan Island, their hulls seeming to absorb light itself. The largest vessels defied easy description, their geometry suggesting dimensions that shouldn't exist in normal space. "Captain," Lin whispered, "there are hundreds of them, maybe thousands, and they're all heading toward human space." Vasquez activated the ship's quantum entanglement communicator, establishing an instantaneous connection with Earth despite the vast distance. "Admiral Chen, this is Captain Vasquez aboard UES Discovery. I'm transmitting tactical data on the incoming Seraphim fleet. Ma'am, they're not coming to destroy individual colonies anymore. They're coming to end humanity entirely." The data transmission sent shockwaves through the Earth Defense Command. The Seraphim weren't just mounting a punitive expedition. They were bringing enough firepower to exterminate every human settlement simultaneously, ensuring no survivors could escape to rebuild elsewhere. Admiral Chen stared at the tactical projection of the approaching alien armada. In approximately 18 months, they would reach the outer human colonies. 6 months after that, they would arrive at Earth itself. "Ladies and gentlemen," she said to the assembled War Council, "we now know the timeline for the extinction of the human race. I suggest we use it wisely." Dr. Richard Chen hadn't slept in 72 hours. His laboratory had become a maze of quantum calculation engines, experimental apparatus, and coffee cups that had achieved their own ecosystem of mold. The breakthrough had come at 3:47 a.m., Luna Standard Time, in a moment of exhausted inspiration that would either save humanity or accidentally erase the moon from existence. "Maya," he called to his assistant, who was equally sleep-deprived and running on stimulants that were probably illegal in most Earth Alliance territories. "Run the calculations again. The quantum resonance cascade should theoretically allow us to induce the same stellar collapse the Seraphim used on New Haven." Dr. Patel looked up from her workstation, her eyes red with fatigue but bright with scientific excitement. "Richard, the power requirements are astronomical. We'd need to channel the entire output of a star through a quantum focusing array. And the containment field would have to be more sophisticated than anything we've ever built." "I know," Chen replied, pulling up a holographic model of his proposed weapon. "But look at this. If we can create a stable quantum tunnel between 2 points in spacetime, we can essentially deliver a star's worth of energy directly into the heart of an enemy vessel. No defense can stop it because the attack doesn't travel through normal space. The weapon existed only in mathematics, but the equations were beautiful in their terrible simplicity. By manipulating the quantum substrate of reality itself, they could reach out across vast distances and convince matter to stop existing. It was the same principle the Seraphim used, but with a crucial human innovation. Instead of collapsing stars, they would collapse the quantum states that held enemy ships together. "There's just one problem," Patel said quietly. "To test this, we'd need to actually destroy something big, and if the calculations are wrong, we could accidentally turn Earth into a black hole," Chen finished. "Yes, I've considered that. It's why we're going to test it on Deimos." Mars's smaller moon had been humanity's first successful asteroid mining operation, but it had been abandoned decades ago when richer deposits were found in the belt. Now the barren rock would serve as the testing ground for humanity's most desperate gamble. Admiral Chen received the proposal in her orbital command center, surrounded by tactical displays showing the approaching Seraphim fleet. The alien armada had been detected by long-range sensors, and their estimated arrival time had been revised downward to 14 months. The outer colonies were falling silent one by one as they received evacuation orders or chose to fight hopeless last stands. "Doctor," the Admiral said via secure quantum link, "you're asking me to authorize a test that could potentially destroy Mars. With respect, Admiral, the Seraphim are going to destroy everything anyway. This weapon represents our only chance of matching their destructive capability. If the test succeeds, we'll have a weapon that can eliminate their fleet before they reach Earth. If it fails, we'll have done their job for them." Admiral Chen finished grimly. "How certain are you of the containment calculations?" Dr. Chen paused, and in that pause lay the weight of human survival. 73%, Admiral. Maybe 75% on a good day. In any other circumstance, such odds would be unacceptable, but with the extinction of humanity at stake, they would have to be enough. Authorization granted, Doctor. God help us all. The test of what would become known as the quantum dissolution torpedo was scheduled for 800 Mars Standard Time, witnessed by observational stations throughout the solar system. Dr. Chen and his team worked from a heavily shielded laboratory on Luna, their quantum targeting system locked onto the abandoned mining station on Deimos. "All stations report ready," Dr. Patel announced, her voice tight with nervous energy. "Quantum containment field is stable. Target acquisition is confirmed. We are go for test firing." Chen's hand hovered over the activation control. In theory, pressing this button would reach out across millions of kilometers and convince a small moon to forget that it existed. In practice, it might accidentally erase everything between Luna and Mars from reality. "For New Haven," he said quietly, and pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. The quantum field generators hummed with their usual frequency. The targeting computers maintained their lock on Deimos, and the solar system continued its ancient dance around the sun, then space, hiccuped. The effect was visible to the naked eye from Mars orbit, a ripple in reality that passed through the cosmos like a stone dropped in still water. When the ripple reached Deimos, the moon simply wasn't. "Target eliminated," Dr. Patel announced, her voice filled with awe. "Complete quantum dissolution confirmed. No detectable debris, no residual energy signature. It's like Deimos never existed." Dr. Chen stared at the readings, hardly believing what they had accomplished. The weapon worked exactly as the mathematics predicted. By manipulating quantum reality, they had reached across space and convinced matter to adopt a new quantum state. Specifically, the state of not existing. "Admiral," Chen reported via quantum link, "the test was successful. We now possess a weapon capable of eliminating targets at interstellar range with 100% efficiency. No defense can stop it because the attack doesn't travel through normal space. It simply changes the quantum state of the target." Admiral Chen allowed herself a moment of fierce satisfaction. "How many torpedoes can you produce, Doctor?" "With our current manufacturing capacity and available resources, we can produce approximately 50 torpedoes before the Seraphim fleet arrives. Each torpedo is capable of eliminating a target up to the size of a capital ship or small moon." The Admiral did quick calculations. Intelligence suggested the Seraphim fleet consisted of several hundred vessels of various sizes. 50 torpedoes would be enough to cripple their advance force, but not enough to destroy the entire armada. "It's a start," she said. "Begin immediate production." "And Doctor?" "Yes, Admiral? Start working on a bigger version. If we're going to fight beings who can collapse stars, we need to be able to do the same thing to them." Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching the void ahead through reinforced viewports that had never been designed to witness what she was about to see. Her ship, a heavily modified Hercules-class destroyer, had been retrofitted with experimental shielding and the first operational quantum dissolution torpedo, humanity's answer to beings who could collapse stars, Captain, reported Lieutenant Commander Hayes from the sensor station, his voice tight with barely controlled tension. Long-range quantum scanners are detecting massive spatial distortions at bearing 27 Mark IV. The Seraphim advance force is exactly where our intelligence predicted. Through the bridge's main viewport, space itself seemed to writhe and twist. The 3 Seraphim vessels didn't so much occupy normal space as impose their presence upon it, their hulls absorbing light so completely that they appeared as ship-shaped tears in the fabric of reality. The smallest was easily 15 kilometers long, its surface rippling with patterns that hurt to look at directly. "My God," whispered Navigation Officer Park. "How do things that size even move?" "They don't move through space," Dr. Amanda Torres replied from her position at the quantum analysis station. The physicist had volunteered for what everyone knew was a one-way mission, determined to gather as much data as possible on Seraphim technology before the Retribution was inevitably destroyed. "They're folding space-time around themselves. Those ships exist partially outside our dimensional framework." Captain Vasquez activated the ship's internal communication system, her voice carrying to every deck of the vessel. "All hands, this is the captain. In approximately 10 minutes, we will engage an enemy force that has the power to erase entire star systems. We are outnumbered, outgunned, and facing technology that shouldn't be possible according to human physics." She paused, looking out at the alien vessels that represented everything humanity feared about the darkness between the stars. "But we have something they don't understand. We have the memory of 2 million human beings who died at New Haven for the crime of existing. We have the voices of children who will never grow up, parents who will never see their families again, and dreamers whose hopes were snuffed out by creatures who consider us cosmic contamination." Throughout the ship, crew members checked their equipment one final time. Engineering crews made last-minute adjustments to the quantum torpedo's targeting system. Tactical officers ran through firing sequences they had practiced hundreds of times but never executed in combat. Medical personnel prepared for casualties that would likely never come. If the Seraphim weapons worked as advertised, there wouldn't be enough left of the ship to require medical attention. "Today, we send a message to the galaxy," Vasquez continued. "We tell every species watching from the shadows that humanity will not go quietly into extinction. We will not beg for mercy from beings who have none. We will not surrender to creatures who view sentient life as a cosmic error to be corrected." The message was simple, broadcast across the galaxy on every frequency. Humanity was no longer hiding, no longer running, no longer begging for mercy from beings who had none. The hunt for the Seraphim Collective had officially begun. The largest Seraphim vessel, a massive dreadnought that defied easy categorization, began to turn toward the Retribution with movements that seemed to ignore inertia and momentum. Reality rippled around it like water disturbed by something vast and alien moving beneath the surface. "Captain," reported Tactical Officer Kim, "the quantum torpedo is armed and ready. Target lock is established on the largest Seraphim vessel. Firing sequence is standing by." Vasquez studied the tactical display one final time. The mathematics were clear. 1 human destroyer against 3 alien ships, each capable of destroying entire fleets. In any conventional engagement, the outcome would be predetermined. But this wouldn't be a conventional engagement. "Dr. Torres," she said, "confirm the torpedo's quantum signature is stable." Torres consulted her readings, her scientific excitement barely contained despite the deadly circumstances. "Quantum field coherence is at maximum stability. The torpedo is existing in perfect superposition. It simultaneously targets all possible quantum states of the enemy vessel until the moment of impact. When reality collapses into the single state where the target ceases to exist, in layman's terms, it's going to reach out across space and convince their biggest ship that it was never built in the first place." The Seraphim vessels continued their approach, and the space around them began to exhibit the telltale signs of weapon activation. The background radiation of the cosmos shifted and twisted as the aliens prepared to demonstrate why they had successfully exterminated 17 civilizations. All stations. Prepare for immediate evasive maneuvers following torpedo launch, Vasquez ordered. We'll have approximately 30 seconds between firing and their return volley. Use them wisely. She looked around the bridge one final time, seeing her reflection in the faces of officers who had volunteered for a mission that would almost certainly end in their deaths. They were the best humanity had to offer, brilliant, brave, and utterly committed to ensuring that their species' first blood drawn against cosmic genocide would be remembered. For New Haven, she said quietly, her hand hovering over the firing control. For New Haven, the bridge crew responded in unison. Vasquez pressed the button. The quantum dissolution torpedo launched without fanfare. Unlike conventional weapons, there was no visible projectile streaking across space, no energy beam crossing the void between ships. The torpedo existed in quantum superposition until the moment it reached its target, experiencing all possible trajectories simultaneously until reality was forced to choose which version of events would become true. For 2.7 seconds, nothing seemed to happen. The Seraphim dreadnought continued its approach, reality continuing to bend around its massive hull. The aliens showed no signs of detecting the incoming attack, their sensors presumably scanning for conventional threats that obeyed normal physics. Then space-time hiccuped. The effect was visible to the naked eye, a ripple in reality that passed through the cosmos like a stone, dropped in perfectly still water. When the ripple reached the Seraphim dreadnought, the massive vessel simply wasn't. The ship didn't explode. It didn't break apart or suffer catastrophic systems failure. One moment it was there, a 15-kilometer monument to alien engineering that had probably existed for millions of years. The next moment, the universe had been edited to reflect a timeline in which that particular arrangement of matter and energy had never coalesced into a starship. Direct hit, Dr. Torres announced, her voice filled with scientific wonder. Complete quantum dissolution confirmed. The target has been retroactively removed from this timeline. It's like it never existed. The reaction from the two surviving Seraphim vessels was immediate and terrifying. They turned toward the retribution with a grace that violated several laws of physics, and space around them began to exhibit the characteristic distortions that preceded their weapons' fire. Evasive maneuvers, Vasquez ordered, but she knew it was futile. The human destroyer, for all its modifications and experimental shielding, was still bound by conventional physics. The Seraphim weapons operated on principles that transcended such limitations. The alien attack, when it came, was unlike anything in human military experience. There was no energy beam, no projectile, no visible sign of an attack at all. The Seraphim simply reached out through folded space and began to convince the molecular bonds, holding the retribution together that they had never been particularly stable to begin with. The ship began to dissolve at the atomic level, starting with the outer hull and working inward. Captain Vasquez watched her command literally fade from existence around her, the bulkheads becoming translucent as their atomic structure was persuaded to adopt new quantum states. All stations, she announced over the intercom as the bridge itself began to lose cohesion. Prepare final data burst transmission. Get everything we've learned back to Earth. Dr. Torres worked frantically at her console as it slowly became less solid beneath her hands. Quantum resonance patterns recorded. Transmission prepared. The weapon works. Repeat, the quantum torpedo works. They're not invincible. The communication array dissolved just as Torres triggered the data burst, sending precious intelligence about Seraphim weapons and defenses back to Earth through quantum entanglement channels. The information would reach Admiral Chen's command center instantaneously, regardless of the vast distances involved. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Hayes reported as his station became increasingly translucent. Structural integrity is falling below measurable parameters. We have maybe 30 seconds before complete molecular dissolution. Vasquez activated the ship's final transmission protocol, broadcasting on all frequencies to ensure the message would reach every human ship and station within light years. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the UES Retribution, she announced as the bridge faded around her. We have successfully engaged Seraphim forces using quantum dissolution technology. Enemy losses, 1 capital ship completely destroyed. Our losses, everything we had to give. The molecular dissolution reached the bridge's life support systems, and the atmosphere began to thin as the air recyclers forgot how to maintain their atomic structure. Around her, Her crew faced their deaths with the calm professionalism that had made them legends in the Earth Defense Force. "The weapon works," Vasquez continued, her voice becoming strained as the oxygen content dropped. "The bastards can die just like anyone else. To the Seraphim Collective, if you're monitoring this transmission, you wanted to cleanse the galaxy of contamination. You've just discovered that some contamination fights back." She looked out through the dissolving viewport at the two surviving alien vessels, their hulls rippling with what might have been surprise or rage. It was impossible to tell with beings so fundamentally alien to human understanding. "Admiral Chen, if you're receiving this, make them pay for New Haven, make them pay for all of us. And when you find the bastards who gave the order to murder 2 million innocent people, tell them Captain Elena Vasquez sent you." The transmission ended as the Retribution completed its transition from starship to scattered subatomic particles. Captain Vasquez and her crew had bought humanity something more precious than time. They had bought proof that the cosmic executioners could bleed. Across human space, the news spread like wildfire through the quantum communication networks. Humanity had drawn first blood against beings who could collapse stars. The gods of cosmic purification had been reminded that they, too, were mortal. The two surviving Seraphim vessels paused in their advance toward human territory, their alien intelligences processing the implications of what had just occurred. For millions of years, they had conducted their purification campaigns with complete impunity, secure in their technological superiority over the younger races they exterminated. Now, for the first time since they had begun their cosmic housekeeping, they had encountered a species that could fight back on their own terms. The realization sent quantum ripples through their communication networks, carrying the news back to their home territories at faster-than-light speeds. The humans were no longer prey to be harvested at leisure. They had become something far more dangerous. They had become an enemy worthy of the collective's full attention. In response to this unprecedented development, the Seraphim Collective began to mobilize their entire fleet. Every ship, every weapon, every reality-warping technology they had developed over there. Million-year reign would be brought to bear against the upstart species that had dared to challenge cosmic order. They were about to learn that challenging humanity's right to exist was the last mistake any species ever made. The war for go. The galaxy had begun in earnest, and the opening shot had been fired by a human destroyer that no longer existed in any timeline. Captain Vasquez and her crew had become the first casualties of a conflict that would reshape the fundamental structure of the universe. Their sacrifice would be remembered long after. The stars themselves had grown cold and dark, but more importantly, their sacrifice had given humanity something it had never possessed before in its brief cosmic history. The absolute certainty that even gods could die when faced with sufficient human determination. The message was simple. Broadcast across the galaxy on every frequency. Humanity was no longer hiding. No longer running. No longer begging for mercy from beings who had none. The hunt for the Seraphim Collective had officially begun. Dr. Maya Patel floated weightlessly in the observation chamber of Helios Station, humanity's most audacious engineering project suspended in the corona of Earth's sun. Through radiation-shielded viewports that cost more than most planetary defense budgets, she watched stellar plasma dance in patterns that would have been beautiful if they weren't part of humanity's last desperate gamble against extinction. Final countdown commencing, announced Chief Engineer Marcus Torres over the station's intercom, his voice carrying the weight of 8 months of sleepless nights and impossible deadlines. All quantum focusing arrays report green status. Stellar energy collection efficiency holding at 96.7%. Patel consulted the tablet containing calculations that had consumed her life since Captain Vasquez's heroic sacrifice proved the Seraphim could be killed. The mathematics were elegant in their terrifying simplicity. By channeling the sun's entire energy output through quantum focusing arrays, they could reach across interstellar space and convince entire star systems to forget they had ever existed. Dr. Chen, she called over the quantum communicator to Luna Base. Final systems check on the targeting array. We get one shot at this. Dr. Richard Chen's voice crackled back through the solar interference that constantly plagued communications this close to the sun. Quantum resonance calculations are locked and verified. Target acquisition shows the Seraphim fleet at 3.7 light-years in closing. Maya, the power readings are off any scale we've ever conceived. We're literally weaponizing a star. Through the viewport, Patel could see the massive collection arrays that ringed Helios Station, crystalline structures the size of city blocks that could capture and channel stellar energy with perfect efficiency. Each array had required exotic matter that existed for only microseconds in normal conditions, held stable by quantum fields that consumed the output of entire fusion reactors. Admiral Chen, this is Helios Station, Patel reported to the Orbital Command Center. Project Prometheus is ready for final firing sequence. Confirm authorization for stellar energy drain. Admiral Sarah Chen's voice came through with grim determination. Dr. Patel, you are authorized to proceed with Project Prometheus. May God forgive us for what we're about to do to our own sun. The Zeraphim fleet had been detected by deep space monitoring stations 4 days ago. Not the scattered survivors they had expected, but the entire might of an ancient civilization mobilized for total war. 3,000 vessels, some the size of asteroids, all equipped with reality-warping weapons that could collapse stars at will. Earth's combined fleet of 800 ships was already engaging the outer scouts, buying precious hours with their lives. Engineering reports ready, Torres announced. Quantum field generators at maximum output. Solar collection arrays synchronized and locked onto target coordinates. All personnel report to emergency stations. Patel activated the station's internal communications, addressing the skeleton crew of volunteers who had insisted on remaining aboard, despite the enormous risks. All hands, this is Dr. Patel. In 60 seconds, we will attempt to channel our sun's total energy output for approximately 5 seconds. If our calculations are correct, we will eliminate the Zeraphim threat and save human civilization. If we're wrong, we will trigger a cascade failure that turns Seoul into a supernova. She paused, floating in the zero-gravity observation chamber, as technicians made final adjustments to equipment that existed at the very edge of theoretical possibility. To the families listening on Earth, to the colonies throughout human space, to every man, woman, and child who calls our species home, we do this for you. For the right to exist, to dream, to reach for the stars without fear of cosmic executioners who think they know better than us what life is worth. The targeting computer chimed with mechanical precision. Target lock confirmed, reported Tactical Specialist Kim from her station deep within the heavily shielded core of Helios Station. Quantum resonance locked onto Zeraphim fleet concentration. Range 3.68 light-years. Fleet composition. Confirmed 3,000-plus vessels. Dr. Chen's voice crackled over the communicator from Luna Base. Maya, the stellar resonance patterns are building to critical levels. The sun is beginning to respond to the collection arrays. We're at the point of no return. Through the viewport, the sun's surface had begun to change. Solar flares erupted with unusual intensity as the collection arrays drew energy from the star's core at rates that defied natural physics. The chromosphere rippled and pulsed as stellar matter was converted to pure quantum energy and channeled through the focusing arrays. All stations report ready for firing, Torres announced, his engineering expertise the only thing standing between humanity and accidental stellar suicide. Quantum containment is holding. Energy levels approaching theoretical maximums. Patel looked out at Earth, a small blue dot barely visible against the sun's overwhelming radiance. Somewhere on that distant world, children were learning to walk. Students were discovering the wonders of science. Artists were creating beauty that would inspire future generations. The Zeraphim would erase all of it without a second thought, convinced that human existence was a cosmic error requiring correction. Dr. Patel, Kim called from the tactical station. Long-range sensors show the Zeraphim fleet is beginning to deploy stellar collapse weapons. If they fire those at our sun before we complete the firing sequence, they won't get the chance, Patel replied with more confidence than she felt. The timing had to be perfect. Too early and the quantum tunnel would collapse before reaching the target. Too late, and Earth's sun would be artificially collapsed by Zeraphim weapons before Project Prometheus could fire. Commencing final energy transfer, Torres announced. All hands brace for stellar drain. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. Every photon of energy produced by the sun for the next 4.7 seconds was captured by the quantum collection arrays and transformed into a coherent beam of pure annihilation. The sun itself visibly dimmed as its energy was harvested, creating a moment of artificial eclipse that would be remembered in humanity's legends for millennia. Energy capture complete, Torres reported, his voice tight with concentration. Quantum focusing arrays are channeling maximum stellar output. The weapon is ready to fire. Patel's hand hovered over the firing control, a simple red button that would either save humanity or destroy the solar system. The mathematics were perfect, the engineering was flawless, but at the scales they were operating on, even perfect calculations carried enormous risks. "For New Haven," she whispered, echoing Captain Vasquez's final words. "For every child who died because cosmic executioners thought they knew better than love what life was worth." She pressed the button. Project Prometheus fired with the fury of a captive star. The quantum tunnel opened across interstellar space, reaching through folded dimensions to deliver 4.7 seconds worth of stellar energy directly into the heart of the Seraphim fleet. The attack traveled not through normal space but through the quantum substrate that underlies all reality, arriving at its target in less than a microsecond. The destruction was total and instantaneous. 3,000 Seraphim vessels, representing the accumulated military might of a civilization that had ruled the galaxy for millions of years, simply ceased to exist. The quantum dissolution spread through their fleet like wildfire, each ship's annihilation creating cascading quantum failures in neighboring vessels. "Target elimination confirmed," Kim announced, her voice filled with awe and terror. "Complete fleet destruction verified, no survivors detected." But the weapon's power had come at a terrible cost. The sun, drained of nearly 5 seconds of total energy output, began to exhibit massive instabilities. Solar flares erupted across its surface with unprecedented violence as the star's fusion processes struggled to compensate for the artificial energy drain. "Emergency alert," Dr. Chen's voice crackled urgently from Luna Base. "Solar instability detected across all monitoring stations. The energy drain has triggered cascade reactions in the sun's core. Stellar fusion processes are becoming increasingly erratic." Patel watched in growing horror as the readings flooded in from monitoring stations throughout the solar system. The sun's chromosphere was showing massive disturbances, its magnetic field fluctuating wildly as the star struggled to maintain equilibrium after losing so much energy so quickly. "How bad is it?" Admiral Chen demanded over the quantum communicator. Dr. Chen's response carried the weight of potential species extinction. "If the cascade reactions continue, the sun will undergo premature core collapse within 72 hours. We saved humanity from the Seraphim, but we may have accidentally triggered our own extinction." The irony was devastating. In their desperation to save human civilization from cosmic executioners, they had potentially doomed themselves to death by artificial supernova. The same quantum physics that had allowed them to strike across interstellar space had destabilized the very star that gave Earth life. "Dr. Patel," Torres called from the engineering station, "the quantum focusing arrays are detecting massive energy fluctuations from throughout the galaxy. It's like our weapon triggered something beyond just the Seraphim fleet destruction." Patel consulted her readings, hardly believing what the instruments were telling her. Across the galaxy, star systems that had been dark for centuries were suddenly blazing with renewed light. The quantum wave from Project Prometheus had apparently disrupted whatever technology the Seraphim had used to collapse distant suns over their million-year reign of terror. "My God," she whispered, "we didn't just destroy their fleet. We reversed every stellar collapse they ever induced. Dead civilizations are being reborn across the galaxy." The implications were staggering. Hundreds of species that had been presumed extinct, their home stars artificially collapsed by Seraphim weapons, were suddenly discovering that their suns had been restored. Entire civilizations were awakening from centuries of darkness to find the galaxy fundamentally changed. But Earth's sun continued its slide toward instability, and humanity faced the ultimate irony. They had saved countless alien civilizations while potentially dooming their own. "All stations," Admiral Chen announced over the fleet communication network, "begin immediate evacuation of the inner solar system. If we can't stabilize the sun, we need to preserve human civilization beyond the blast radius." As evacuation ships began departing Earth's orbital stations, Dr. Patel worked frantically to find a solution to the stellar instability they had inadvertently created. The quantum physics involved were beyond anything in human theoretical framework, but somewhere in the mathematics of stellar engineering lay the key to saving the star that had given birth to human civilization. The race was, could humanity master the quantum mechanics of stellar stabilization before their own sun destroyed them? They had proven they could kill cosmic gods, but could they heal the wounds they had inflicted on the very source of life itself? The answer would determine whether humanity's victory over the Seraphim would be remembered as the moment they became the galaxy's saviors, or the last act of a species that had reached too far into the quantum fire and been consumed by their own desperate ambition. In the depths of space, newly reborn civilizations looked toward Earth with instruments that detected the massive quantum disturbances emanating from humanity's home system. Some prepared to offer assistance to the species that had apparently reversed galactic genocide. Others simply watched to see if the cosmic newcomers would survive their own success. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would do for an encore. Admiral Chen received the news of the sun's instability, while coordinating rescue operations for the survivors of humanity's sacrificial defense fleet. Of the 800 ships that had engaged the Seraphim scouts, fewer than 50 remained operational. The human cost had been staggering. Nearly 250,000 naval personnel had died buying time for Project Prometheus to complete its firing sequence. "Doctor," Chen said over the quantum communicator to Helios Station, "is there any way to stabilize the sun's fusion processes?" Dr. Patel's voice crackled with static from the solar interference. "We're working on it, Admiral, but the quantum disruption is unlike anything in our theoretical framework. We may have damaged the fundamental quantum states that govern stellar fusion." As the solar crisis deepened, humanity's deep space monitoring stations detected something unexpected. Throughout the galaxy, ancient star systems that had gone dark over the past millennium were suddenly blazing with renewed light. The quantum wave that had destroyed the Seraphim fleet had also disrupted whatever technology they had used to collapse distant suns. "Admiral," Dr. Chen reported from Luna Base, "we're receiving quantum resonance signals from 17 previously dark star systems. The stellar collapses the Seraphim induced over the past 1,000 years are reversing themselves. Dead stars are being reborn." The implications were staggering. The Seraphim hadn't just destroyed civilizations. They had been systematically harvesting stellar energy across the galaxy, using collapsed stars as some kind of cosmic battery system. Project Prometheus had not only destroyed their fleet, but had disrupted their entire galactic infrastructure. But the victory felt hollow, as Earth's sun continued to destabilize. Solar flares increased in intensity and frequency, and the planet's magnetic field struggled to deflect the increased radiation. Evacuation ships prepared to flee the solar system, carrying humanity's genetic and cultural heritage to distant colonies that might survive the coming solar apocalypse. Dr. Patel worked frantically in the quantum mechanics laboratory aboard Helios Station, running calculations and simulations as the sun's fury raged around her. The solution, when it came, was elegantly simple and impossibly complex at the same time. "We need to reverse the quantum resonance cascade," she announced over the station intercom. "If we can channel energy back into the sun's core using the same quantum tunneling principles, we might be able to restabilize the fusion processes." "Where are we going to get that much energy?" Dr. Chen asked. Patel smiled grimly as she pulled up star charts showing the newly reborn systems throughout the galaxy. "From the stars the Seraphim murdered, every stellar resurrection is generating massive amounts of excess quantum energy as the stars remember how to exist. We can tap into that energy and feed it back into our own sun. The process required reconfiguring the quantum focusing arrays to work in reverse, channeling energy into the sun rather than extracting it. It was delicate work. Too little energy and the sun would continue to destabilize. Too much and it would explode immediately rather than gradually. As Patel and her team worked to save their solar system, reports continued to arrive from across the galaxy. The quantum wave from Project Prometheus had traveled far beyond its intended target, disrupting Seraphim technology throughout their empire. Ancient civilizations that had been presumed extinct were sending out tentative signals. Their home stars suddenly restored to life after centuries or millennia of artificial darkness. "Admiral," Commander Kim reported from Earth's orbital command center, "we're receiving a transmission from the Rigel system. It's from the Altarian Republic. They were listed as extinct in our databases, destroyed by the Seraphim 300 years ago." The transmission, when it came through, was a mixture of joy, confusion, and desperate gratitude. The Altarians had survived in underground cities on their homeworld's moons, maintaining a minimal civilization while their sun remained collapsed. The sudden restoration of their star had caught them completely off guard. "People of Earth," the Altarian transmission began, "we do not know what force has restored life to our dying system, but our instruments detect that the quantum resonance originated from your location. If your species is responsible for this miracle, you have our eternal gratitude and whatever assistance we can provide." Similar transmissions arrived from across the galaxy as extinct civilizations awakened to find their stars burning once again. The Epsilon Eridani Collective, the Vegan Trading Federation, the silicon-based crystalline entities of Wolf, 3 to 59 species that had been mourned as casualties of Seraphim purification campaigns, were suddenly very much alive and very interested in making contact with the humans who had somehow reversed cosmic genocide on a galactic scale. But Earth's sun continued to destabilize, and Dr. Patel's efforts to channel energy from the reborn stars were proving more difficult than anticipated. The quantum tunneling arrays could theoretically tap into stellar energy from across the galaxy, but the precision required to feed that energy safely into Sol's fusion core was beyond human engineering capabilities. "We need help," Patel admitted over the quantum communicator. "The calculations are too complex, the variables too numerous. We need a civilization with more advanced quantum mechanics knowledge." The answer came from an unexpected source. The Seraphim homeworld, located in a star system that had served as the hub of their galactic empire, had also been affected by the quantum wave from Project Prometheus. But instead of destroying their star, it had restored something that had been hidden for millions of years. "Admiral," Dr. Chen reported, his voice filled with amazement, "long-range sensors are detecting massive quantum signatures from the Seraphim home system. But they're not Seraphim in origin. There's something else there, something that was hidden beneath their planetary surface." The truth, when it emerged, recontextualized everything humanity thought it knew about the galaxy. The Seraphim had not been the galaxy's original inhabitants. They had been its conquerors, systematically destroying older civilizations and consuming their stellar energy to fuel their empire. The beings whose quantum signatures were now emerging from the Seraphim homeworld were the remnants of the galaxy's original civilization, the predecessors who had built the fundamental infrastructure of galactic society before the Seraphim arrived. "They're offering to help," Admiral Chen announced to the assembled leaders of the Earth Alliance. "The predecessors have quantum manipulation technology that makes the Seraphim look primitive. They can stabilize our sun, but they want something in return." "What do they want?" President Martinez asked. "They want us to help them reclaim the galaxy from the Seraphim's legacy. There are Seraphim survivors scattered throughout the Outer Rim, fleeing the collapse of their empire. The predecessors want humanity to lead a coalition of reborn civilizations to hunt down the remaining Seraphim and ensure they can never again threaten galactic civilization." The choice was stark but clear. Humanity could accept help from the predecessors, save their solar system, and become the leaders of a galactic coalition dedicated to preventing another Seraphim-style genocide. Or they could refuse, watch their sun die and hope that somehow humanity could survive as a nomadic species, fleeing through the void between stars. "The irony is perfect," Admiral Chen observed. "We set out to save ourselves from extinction, and ended up becoming the galaxy's protectors. The Seraphim wanted to purify the cosmos of what they saw as contamination. Instead, they awakened something far more dangerous than they ever imagined: human beings with a cause." 6 months after the Battle of Sol, Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Prometheus, humanity's first stellar-class vessel constructed with predecessor quantum technology. Through the ship's reality-warping viewports, she could see the rebuilt Rigel system, where representatives from 47 reborn civilizations had gathered to form the Galactic Restoration Coalition. Dr. Maya Patel, now serving as humanity's chief science advisor to the coalition, reviewed the reports from across the galaxy. "The sun stabilization was completely successful," she reported. "Sol is actually burning more efficiently than before the crisis. The predecessor technology didn't just repair the damage, it optimized our star's fusion processes for maximum longevity. Earth's sun would now burn for several billion years, longer than originally calculated, giving humanity timescales that made interstellar civilization not just possible, but inevitable." More importantly, the quantum resonance technology developed during the crisis had given humanity capabilities that rivaled those of species millions of years older. "What's the status of the Seraphim survivors?" Admiral Chen asked. Commander Kim consulted her tactical displays. Intelligence reports suggest approximately 50,000 Seraphim escaped the destruction of their fleet, scattered across the galaxy in small groups. Most are trying to reach the galactic rim, probably hoping to rebuild their civilization in dark space between galaxies. And our pursuit forces? 12 human battle groups are coordinating with coalition forces to track down the survivors. The Altarians have provided excellent intelligence on Seraphim hiding techniques, and the Vegan Trading Federation has been instrumental in disrupting their supply lines. Admiral Chen nodded with satisfaction. The galaxy had united in its determination to ensure that the Seraphim genocide machine could never be rebuilt. But the Coalition's mission extended beyond simple revenge. They were working to establish permanent safeguards against any future species attempting systematic extermination. "Admiral," Dr. Patel interrupted, "we're receiving a priority transmission from the Kepler 442 system. It's from Captain Rodriguez." Chen raised an eyebrow. Rodriguez had been presumed dead when his ship was destroyed during the Battle of Sol, but his escape pod had been recovered by a Coalition rescue vessel. Rather than retiring, he had volunteered to lead one of the most dangerous missions in the galaxy, hunting Seraphim survivors in the dark space between stars. Rodriguez's image appeared on the holographic display, his face weathered by months of deep space operations but his eyes bright with fierce determination. Behind him, Chen could see the bridge of the UES Retribution. The ship had been rebuilt using quantum construction techniques that allowed it to exist partially outside normal spacetime. "Admiral," Rodriguez reported, "we've located a major Seraphim concentration in the NGC 4472 galaxy cluster. Intelligence suggests they're attempting to rebuild their stellar collapse technology using salvaged quantum cores from their destroyed fleet." "How many survivors?" "Conservative estimate puts it at 15,000 Seraphim, plus an unknown number of enslaved species they've captured during their retreat. They're using a rogue planet as their base of operations, hidden in the void between galaxy clusters where conventional sensors can't detect them." Chen studied the tactical data Rodriguez transmitted. The Seraphim survivors had chosen their hiding spot well. The rogue planet was positioned in a region of space so empty that it would take conventional ships centuries to reach. But the Coalition had advantages the Seraphim didn't expect. "Rodriguez, you're authorized to proceed with Operation Final Solution. Coordinate with Predecessor Command. They're providing you with a stellar manipulation device that should make short work of the entire concentration. The technology the predecessors had shared with humanity was almost incomprehensibly advanced. Where Project Prometheus had required channeling an entire star's energy to destroy the Seraphim fleet, the new stellar manipulation devices could create and destroy suns at will, reaching across galactic distances to deliver precision strikes against any target. "Admiral," Rodriguez acknowledged, "it will be an honor to finish what we started at New Haven. These bastards wanted to purify the galaxy. Let's show them what real purification looks like." The Battle of the Rogue Planet lasted exactly 4.7 minutes. Captain Rodriguez's task force used predecessor stellar manipulation technology to create a temporary star in the void. Its fusion processes carefully controlled to incinerate the Seraphim concentration while preserving any enslaved species they had captured. The survivors, members of 6 different civilizations that the fleeing Seraphim had enslaved during their retreat, were rescued and returned to their home systems, many of which had been restored when the original quantum wave reversed the stellar collapses. As reports of the successful operation reached Earth, Admiral Chen reflected on the transformation humanity had undergone in less than 2 years. They had started as a single species facing extinction, desperately trying to survive against impossible odds. They had become the leaders of a galactic coalition dedicated to ensuring no species would ever again face systematic extermination. "Dr. Patel," Chen said as they watched the celebration broadcasts from across the galaxy, "do you think we've become what we were fighting against? We're systematically hunting down and destroying every Seraphim survivor. How is that different from what they did to other species?" Patel considered the question carefully before answering. "The difference, Admiral, is choice. The Seraphim never gave their victims the option to surrender, to change, to coexist peacefully. We've offered amnesty to any Seraphim willing to abandon their purification ideology and integrate into galactic society. The ones we're hunting are the ones who refuse that offer and are actively trying to rebuild their genocide machine. It was true. The Coalition had established refugee centers where Seraphim civilians could apply for asylum, renouncing their species' supremacist ideology in exchange for protection and integration into multi-species communities. Several hundred had taken advantage of the offer, and their knowledge of Seraphim technology and psychology had proven invaluable in tracking down the holdouts. Besides, Patel continued, we're not just hunting Seraphim. We're hunting the ideology that drove them to systematic genocide. If another species develops the same supremacist philosophy and starts exterminating their neighbors, we'll hunt them too. The goal isn't species-specific revenge, it's ensuring that what happened to New Haven never happens again. The Galactic Restoration Coalition had indeed evolved. Beyond its origins as an anti-Seraphim alliance, they had established protocols for monitoring civilizations for signs of developing genocide technologies, early intervention programs for species showing supremacist tendencies, and rapid response capabilities for protecting endangered civilizations. Admiral, Commander Kim announced from the communications station, we're receiving a transmission from the outer galactic rim. It's from a previously unknown civilization. They call themselves the Harmony Collective. The transmission, when it came through, carried a message that sent chills through everyone who heard it. The Harmony Collective had been watching the galaxy for millions of years from their position beyond the galactic edge, studying the rise and fall of civilizations. They had observed the Seraphim's systematic extermination campaigns with clinical interest, recording the deaths of countless species as valuable scientific data. We congratulate the species you call humanity on your recent success in eliminating the Seraphim threat. The transmission began, delivered by a being whose physiology was utterly alien to anything in the Coalition database. Your quantum manipulation techniques show considerable promise, and your species displays the kind of aggressive expansion we find promising. Admiral Chen felt her blood run cold as the implications became clear. They want to see if we're going to become the next galactic threat. The Harmony Collective's message continued. We have been conducting long-term studies on galactic civilization patterns for approximately 47 million years. The Seraphim represented our most successful test subjects for systematic extermination protocols. With their elimination, we require new test subjects to continue our research. Your species has demonstrated the necessary aggressive tendencies and technological capabilities. The transmission ended with coordinates for a meeting point in the void between galaxies, along with an invitation for humanity to discuss opportunities for mutually beneficial research collaboration. Dr. Patel stared at the star charts showing the Harmony Collective's position. Admiral, they're not just observers. They're the puppet masters. They've been manipulating galactic civilization for millions of years, using species like the Seraphim as tools for their experiments. And now they want to use us, Chen concluded grimly. They think we're the next Seraphim. The Admiral activated the Coalition's emergency communication network, sending the Harmony Collective's transmission to every member species simultaneously. The response was immediate and unanimous. The galaxy had had enough of puppet masters and cosmic experimenters. Ladies, gentlemen, and various non-binary galactic citizens, Admiral Chen announced over the Coalition-wide network. It appears we have a new problem. The good news is that we've had practice dealing with beings who think they're superior to the rest of the galaxy. The bad news is that these ones have been at it for 47 million years. She paused, looking out at the stars that had become humanity's responsibility to protect. I suggest we introduce them to the fundamental principle that has driven human civilization since we first looked up at the night sky. Nobody gets to decide who lives and who dies except the beings making those lives worth living. The Harmony Collective wants to study galactic extermination patterns. Let's give them one more data point for their research. The Galactic Restoration Coalition was about to discover that becoming the galaxy's guardians was just the beginning. Beyond the rim of known space, ancient powers stirred, intrigued by the species that had dared to upset the cosmic order they had maintained for eons. Humanity had survived their first test as protectors of galactic civilization. The real test was about to begin. From the personal logs of Admiral Sarah Chen, recorded aboard the UES Infinity 5 years after the Battle of Seoul. Today marks the 5th anniversary of the day humanity discovered we weren't alone in the universe. It also marks the 3rd anniversary of the day we discovered that being alone might have been preferable to the alternatives. The war against the Harmony Collective has spread beyond our galaxy, drawing in ancient civilizations from neighboring star clusters who have their own grievances against the cosmic puppet masters. We've learned that the pattern we experienced, a supremacist species emerging to conduct systematic extermination, followed by the rise of a defender coalition, has been repeated across the universe for millions of years. The Harmony Collective calls it the Great Cycle, claiming it's necessary for the evolution of cosmic consciousness. We call it cosmic-scale serial murder, and we've made it our mission to break the cycle permanently. Dr. Maya Patel, now Director of Coalition Quantum Warfare Research, has developed technologies that would have been incomprehensible to us 5 years ago. We can create and destroy stars with the push of a button, fold space to move fleets across galactic distances instantaneously, and reach through dimensional barriers to strike at enemies who exist partially outside reality. We've become everything the Seraphim were and more, with one crucial difference. We remember New Haven. We remember the children who died for the crime of being human, and we've dedicated our civilization to ensuring that no other species ever faces that choice between extinction and surrender. Captain Rodriguez returned from his latest deep space mission yesterday with news that the Harmony Collective has begun recruiting new species for their experiments. Somewhere in the Andromeda galaxy, another civilization is being groomed to become systematic exterminators, while their future victims remain blissfully unaware of their fate. We won't let it happen again. The coalition now spans 17 galaxies, with humanity serving as the central coordinators for the largest military alliance in known cosmic history. We've gone from a single species facing extinction to the leaders of an infinite war against those who would treat sentient life as expendable research, data. Sometimes I wonder if this is what the Seraphim felt like in their early days, convinced they were serving a higher purpose, protecting the galaxy from contamination. The difference, I tell myself, is that we're fighting to preserve life, not eliminate it. We're the shield, not the sword. But late at night, when I look out at the stars and think about the civilizations we've destroyed in the name of protection, I wonder if the distinction matters to the dead. The Harmony Collective was right about one thing. We have become aggressive expanders, spreading human influence across the cosmos with a determination that borders on obsession. We've established research stations in dimensions that don't technically exist, built weapons that can retroactively prevent species from evolving, and developed technologies that allow us to rewrite the fundamental laws of physics on a universal scale. We've become the cosmic police force we never wanted to be, because the alternative is watching the universe burn, while ancient powers conduct their experiments on civilizations that never agreed to be test subjects. New Haven Colony is gone, erased so thoroughly that even the quantum echoes of its existence have been consumed by the void. But in its memory, humanity has become something unprecedented in cosmic history. A species that refuses to accept that might makes right, that survival of the fittest is a moral imperative, or that the strong have any inherent authority over the weak. We are the children of a small blue planet who looked up at the stars and decided that every light in the night sky deserved the chance to nurture life, love, hope, and dreams. The universe is vast and dark and full of ancient horrors that view us as nothing more than interesting specimens. They're about to learn why humanity doesn't go quietly into any night, cosmic or otherwise. The infinite war continues, and humanity stands guard over 1 trillion worlds we've never seen, protecting species we've never met, ensuring that somewhere in the cosmos, children can sleep safely under alien suns. It's what we do. It's who we are. It's what New Haven died for. And by God, we're good at it. End log.